I lost $47,000 on my dream home, and I'm one of the lucky ones. Because my neighbor, he lost his entire life savings. Same house, same neighborhood, bought it 3 years before me. Here's what nobody tells you about homeownership in 2025. My name is Brad, and I love to stare at spreadsheets so you don't have to. And today, I'm going to make a lot of people mad. Because I'm going to tell you that the thing your parents told you was the smartest financial decision you could make is actually one of the dumbest. Buying a house in 2025 is not an investment, it's a trap. Look, I bought a house when I was 34. 3-bedroom, 2-bath, nice yard, good neighborhood. Everyone congratulated me, my parents were proud, my friends said I was finally an adult. I felt like I made it, and for the first 3 months I loved it. Then I met my new roommates. I'm not talking about tenants, I'm talking about the 3 people who moved in without asking and started taking money out of my account every single month. Their names are property tax, insurance, and maintenance, and these roommates are expensive. Here's the thing nobody tells you. When you buy a house, everyone talks about the mortgage payment, but the mortgage is just the beginning. It's like buying a car and only thinking about the car payment, forgetting that you need gas, insurance, repairs, and parking. Let me show you what I mean. My mortgage was $2,400 a month. Okay, that's doable. But then property tax was another $450 a month. Insurance was $280 a month. And here's the one that killed me. Maintenance. Financial experts say you should budget 1% of your home's value per year for maintenance. My house cost $420,000. That's $4,200 a year, or $350 a month. Except some years, it was way more than that. So my actual housing cost wasn't $2,400, it was $3,480, and that's before anything broke. The AC went out year 2, $6,000. The roof needed work, year 4, $12,000. The water heater, the fence, the driveway, the everything, it never stopped. But here's what really messed me up. I did the math on what I actually owned. This is where things get interesting. With a 30-year mortgage at 7% interest, which is pretty normal right now in 2025, here's how the numbers break down. On a $420,000 house with 20% down, you're borrowing $336,000. Your monthly payment is about $2,200, but in the first year, you know how much of that goes to actually owning the house? About $600 a month. The other $1,600 is just interest. You're literally giving the bank $1,600 every month for the privilege of owing the money. After 5 years of payments, you've paid the bank $132,000, but you only own an extra $38,000 of the house. Where did the other $94,000 go? The bank kept it. And that's not even counting the property tax, insurance, and maintenance. Now you might be thinking, okay, Brad, but at least you're building equity. Renters are just throwing money away. And this is the biggest lie in personal finance, because you're not throwing money away when you rent. You're buying flexibility, you're buying liquidity, you're buying freedom. Let me show you the real math on renting versus buying. And I'm going to use actual numbers from 2025, not some made-up perfect scenario. Scenario 1, you buy that $420,000 house. You put down $84,000. That's 20%. Which most people don't even have. But let's say you saved it. Your monthly payment is $2,200. Add property tax, insurance, and maintenance. You're at $3,280 a month. Over 5 years, you'll pay $196,800 in total costs. Plus your $84,000 down payment. That's $280,800 spent. After 5 years, your home might be worth more. Let's say it goes up 4% a year, which is pretty optimistic. Now it's worth $511,000. You sell it. After paying the realtor 6%, you get $480,340. You still owe about $315,000 on the mortgage, so you walk away with $165,340. You spent $280,800. You got back $165,340. You lost $115,460. But Brad, you're thinking, you had a place to live for 5 years. Yes, expensive place to live. Now let's look at scenario 2. You rent. You find a comparable place for $2,200 a month, same size, same neighborhood. Over 5 years, you pay $132,000 in rent. But remember, you didn't spend that $84,000 down payment, and you didn't spend that extra $1,080 a month on property tax, insurance, and maintenance. That's $64,800 over 5 years. So you invest that money. The $84,000 goes straight into an S&P 500 index fund, and that $1,080 a month goes in too. Over 5 years, with average market returns of about 10% a year, you know what you have? About $180,000. You spent $132,000 on rent. You have $180,000 in investments. That's a $48,000 gain. Compare that to the home buyer who lost $115,460. The difference is $163,460. Let me say that again. The renter ends up with $163,460, more money after 5 years. Same housing quality, same neighborhood, completely different financial outcome. And here's what makes this even crazier. That $180,000 the renter has, it's liquid. You can access it. You can use it. You can let it keep growing. The home buyer's equity? It's trapped. You can't spend equity. You have to sell the house or take out a loan to access it. And if you take out a loan, guess what? You're paying interest again. But wait, there's more. Let's talk about the psychology of home ownership. Because this is where people really mess up their lives. When you own a home, you're stuck. Your job options are limited to your area. You can't easily move for a better opportunity. You can't downsize when life changes. You're trapped by this thing you thought was an investment. I have a friend who got offered a job making $40,000 more a year in another state. He couldn't take it because he was underwater on his house. The market had dropped. He owed more than it was worth, and selling meant bringing money to closing. So he stayed at his lower-paying job because his house had him locked in. That's not building wealth. That's building a prison. And here's something else nobody talks about: the stress. Home ownership is stressful. Every noise the house makes, you wonder what's breaking. Every storm, you worry about damage. Every year, property taxes and insurance go up. You can't control your housing costs anymore. At least when you rent, you know exactly what you're paying. It's fixed. The average homeowner spends 2 hours a week on home maintenance. That's 104 hours a year. At a reasonable hourly rate of $50, that's another $5,200 a year in hidden costs. Your time has value, and you're spending it mowing lawns and fixing stuff instead of building your career or spending time with family. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Let's extend this out to 20 years, because that's when people say home ownership really pays off. The homeowner, after 20 years, has paid off a chunk of the mortgage. Let's say their house is now worth $700,000, and they owe $180,000. They have $520,000 in equity. Not bad, right? But the renter? They've been investing that down payment plus the difference in costs for 20 years. With compound returns, they have over $1.1 million in their investment account. The renter has more than double what the homeowner has. And get this, the renter's money is liquid. They can access it any time. The homeowner has to sell their house to get their equity out. And then, where are they going to live? Here's what most people don't realize. A house is not an asset. An asset is something that puts money in your pocket. A house takes money out of your pocket every single month. It's a liability that might go up in value. That's not the same as an investment. Let me tell you what happened to me. After 5 years of home ownership, I sat down and did the real math. Not the math the real estate agent showed me. Not the math my parents told me. The actual numbers. I had paid $196,800 in total housing costs. My house had gone up in value by about $60,000, but I had only paid down about $38,000 in principal. And I had spent my entire emergency fund twice on repairs. I had missed out on job opportunities because I couldn't move. I had spent hundreds of hours maintaining this thing, and then I looked at what I could have done instead. If I had rented for $2,200 a month and invested the difference, I would have had $187,000 in liquid investments. Instead, I had maybe $60,000 in equity that I couldn't access without selling. That's when I realized I had been scammed, not by a person, but by an idea. This idea that owning a home is always the smart financial move. This idea that rent is throwing money away. This idea that you're not a real adult until you own property. It's all backwards. So here's what I did. I sold the house. took my small amount of equity, added it to the money I had been saving, and started investing properly. I rented a great apartment for $1,900 a month. Same quality of life, way less stress, way more freedom. And in the 3 years since I sold that house, my investments have grown by $127,000. My friends who are still in their houses, they're still paying down mortgages, still fixing things, still trapped. Now look, I'm not saying never buy a house. If you're planning to stay in one place for 20+ years, if you have a stable career, if you have a fully funded emergency fund, if the house payment is less than 25% of your take-home pay, and if you genuinely want to own for non-financial reasons, then maybe it makes sense. But here's what I am saying. Don't buy a house because you think it's an investment. Don't buy because someone told you rent is wasted money. Don't buy because you feel pressured to be an adult. Those are terrible reasons that will cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. A house is a place to live. That's it. If you want to build wealth, you need liquid investments. You need money that's working for you, not tied up in property taxes and new roofs. You need flexibility to take opportunities when they come. Here's the bottom line. In 2025, with interest rates above 7%, with home prices at record highs, with insurance costs through the roof, buying a house is one of the worst financial decisions most people can make. The math is clear. Renting and investing beats buying and hoping. The renter who invests the difference ends up with more money, more flexibility, and way less stress. The homeowner ends up house poor, trapped, and wondering why they can't get ahead financially. Your parents bought homes when interest rates were 4% and houses cost 3 times their annual salary. Today, the average house costs 7 times the average salary. It's a completely different game. The rules have changed, but the advice hasn't. So here's what you should actually do. Rent a place you can afford. Keep your housing costs below 30% of your take-home pay. Take every dollar you would have spent on a down payment, property taxes, insurance, maintenance, and extra mortgage costs, and invest it in index funds. In 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, you'll have actual wealth, not equity you can't access, not a house that owns you, but liquid investments that give you freedom and options. And if you still want to buy a house after building that wealth, great. Buy it with cash or put down 50%. Make it a choice, not a trap. Make it something you want, not something you think you're supposed to do. The American dream of home ownership was created by banks and real estate agents who make money when you buy. It wasn't created by people who understand compound interest and opportunity cost. Don't fall for it. Hit subscribe if you want more truth about money that nobody else will tell you.